The sound of screeching tires echoed through the alleyway as Emma yanked her bicycle to a halt. A man lay sprawled on the cobblestones, his face pale and drenched in sweat. His torn suit and trembling hands hinted at something gone terribly wrong. "Help me, please!" he gasped, clutching his ankle. Without hesitation, Emma jumped off her bike, her heart pounding. She helped him to a bench, noticing his swelling ankle and panicked gaze. "Mugged," he muttered, shaking his head. Emma didn't know who he was or why he was here, but her instincts pushed her to act. Emma was a 16-year-old who lived in the heart of a poor, bustling neighborhood with her widowed mother and younger brother Liam. Life had never been easy for them. Her father's death had left them struggling to make ends meet. Despite their hardships, Emma had a kind and giving nature that earned her the love of everyone around. She would often run errands for elderly neighbors or tutor younger kids in the neighborhood, asking for nothing in return. Her days were packed. After school, she worked odd jobs, delivering groceries, cleaning houses, or babysitting, so her mother wouldn't have to work overtime. Emma dreamed of becoming a teacher, but the cost of education was daunting. She used whatever little money she earned to buy books and supplies, often skipping her own meals to save for her dreams. One rainy evening, Emma was returning home from a long day of babysitting. Her bike's chain had been acting up, and she pedaled cautiously through the dimly lit alleyways. That's when she saw him, a man lying on the cobblestones, injured and desperate. The sight stopped her in her tracks. She had no idea that her next decision would change her life forever. Emma's bike screeched to a halt. The man was slumped against the cobblestones, his face pale and twisted in pain. His suit, though expensive, was torn and one of his shoes was missing. "Help me," he gasped, clutching his ankle. Emma hesitated. It wasn't unusual to see strangers in trouble in her neighborhood, but trust was a fragile thing here. Still, the man's desperate eyes tugged at her heart. She jumped off her bike, her instincts overriding her caution. "Are you okay?" she asked, crouching beside him. "I was mugged," he muttered, pointing to his swollen ankle. "They took everything, wallet, phone." Emma's heart sank. She didn't have much, but she couldn't leave him here. She helped him to a nearby bench, using all her strength to support his weight. As he sat down, wincing, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her last crumpled note. "There's a clinic a few streets away," she said, handing him the money. "Tell them Emma sent you. They'll help." The man's eyes softened, filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Emma," he whispered, reading her name from her school bag. Emma watched as he hobbled away, unaware of the ripple effect her small act of kindness was about to create. The man limped toward the clinic, clutching the note Emma had given him. Each step sent a sharp pain shooting up his leg, but he pressed on. Her kindness had been unexpected, especially in an area where survival often came first. At the clinic, the nurse looked at him suspiciously before softening at the mention of Emma's name. "She's a sweet girl," the nurse said as she bandaged his ankle, "always helping people." As the man sat there, waiting for the pain to subside, he couldn't stop thinking about Emma. Her face, her determination, and her willingness to part with the little she had, all of it stuck with him. Once he was stable enough to leave, he asked the nurse for directions out of the neighborhood. On his way, he saw a tattered banner outside a nearby school, and the pieces began to fall into place. This girl wasn't just kind. She was fighting her own battles in a place that offered no second chances. Back in his car later that night, the man looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He was Michael Stanton, a billionaire CEO, and he had just been saved by a girl who had no idea who he was. Back at home, Emma was busy helping her mother prepare dinner. Their one-room apartment was cramped but warm, filled with the aroma of lentil stew. Liam sat at the small table doing his homework, his stomach growling audibly. Emma handed him a piece of bread and ruffled his hair. Life had always been like this, barely scraping by. Emma's mother worked long hours as a cleaner, leaving before sunrise and returning late at night. Emma did her part by earning whatever she could after school, but it was never enough. Emma's dreams of becoming a teacher felt like distant stars, beautiful but out of reach. Her school fees were paid with great difficulty, and she often wore the same old shoes and uniform until they were threadbare. Yet she never let the weight of her struggles dim her spirit. That night, as Emma lay on the worn-out mattress she shared with Liam, she thought about the man she had helped. Who was he? What had brought him to their neighborhood? She hoped he was okay, but quickly brushed the thought aside. She had done her part. Little did she know, her small act of kindness had already set life-changing events in motion. Michael Stanton stared out of the window of his luxury penthouse, the glittering city skyline before him. His ankle was bandaged, and his body ached, but his mind was restless. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl who had helped him. As the CEO of Stanton Enterprises, Michael was used to the comforts of wealth and power. His business empire stretched across industries, and he rarely encountered genuine kindness in his high-profile world. That night, he had been returning from a meeting when he decided to take a shortcut through the city. The decision had been a mistake. He was ambushed, robbed, and left injured in an unfamiliar part of town. But Emma's selflessness had restored something he hadn't felt in years: humility. Michael instructed his assistant to find out more about Emma. He wanted to know who she was and how he could repay her. His assistant returned with details of her life, and Michael was stunned. The girl who had given her last bit of money to help him lived a life of unimaginable hardship. Michael felt an unfamiliar pang of guilt. He had more than enough to help, and this time he decided he wouldn't hold back. The following week, Emma's world changed in ways she could never have imagined. Michael Stanton, the man she had helped, held a press conference that aired on national television. Emma had no idea who he truly was until her neighbor called her over to watch the broadcast. Michael appeared on screen, sitting at a long table with reporters asking questions. He recounted his experience of being mugged and injured and spoke passionately about the girl who had selflessly helped him despite having so little. "Her kindness saved me that night," he said. "It reminded me that even in the darkest corners light exists. And today, I'm proud to announce the creation of the Stanton Scholarship Fund to support underprivileged students like Emma." Emma froze in disbelief as her name was mentioned. The cameras flashed to a large check displayed on the table, symbolizing the first funding for the scholarship program. Michael concluded with a smile, saying, "Sometimes the greatest inspiration comes from those who have the least but give the most." Emma's mother hugged her tightly as neighbors cheered. Emma couldn't process it all. She had simply done what felt right. How could that small moment have led to something this big? Still reeling from the televised announcement, Emma spent the next few days in disbelief. Whispers of her act of kindness spread through the neighborhood, and people began stopping her on the streets to congratulate her. She smiled politely, but deep down, she still couldn't believe the stranger she had helped was a billionaire CEO. Her questions were soon answered when a black luxury car pulled up in front of her small apartment building. Michael Stanton stepped out, accompanied by his assistant. Emma's family, still in their work clothes, stood frozen in the doorway. "Emma," Michael began, his voice warm and sincere, "I wanted to thank you in person. Your selflessness inspired me more than you can imagine." He handed her an envelope and continued, "This is to ensure you never have to worry about your education again. And I want to personally invite you to speak at the launch of the Stanton Scholarship Fund." Emma opened the envelope to find a full scholarship for her education, along with a handwritten note of gratitude. She was overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face as her mother hugged her tightly. It was the beginning of a new chapter she never saw coming. Emma's life shifted dramatically after Michael Stanton's visit. A week later, she found herself standing in front of a packed auditorium at the launch event for the Stanton Scholarship Fund. Cameras flashed, and a microphone was handed to her. Emma, though nervous, spoke from the heart. "I didn't help Mr. Stanton expecting anything in return," she said. "I only did what I believe everyone should do, show kindness when someone needs it. I never imagined it would lead to this moment." Her voice trembled as she glanced at Michael, who smiled encouragingly. "I'm grateful for this opportunity and hope this fund will help others like me achieve their dreams." The audience erupted into applause, and Emma's story became a national sensation. Soon after, her family moved to a better home, thanks to Michael's financial support. Emma began attending a prestigious school on a full scholarship, where she had access to resources she had only dreamed of. Though her circumstances had improved, Emma remained humble. She knew how hard life could be, and promised herself she'd use her newfound privileges to help others. Her journey wasn't just about success, it was about giving back. Transitioning to a new school and lifestyle wasn't easy for Emma. Her new school was filled with students from wealthy families, and she initially felt out of place. Her clothes weren't as fancy, and she still packed simple lunches from home. But Emma's determination to succeed pushed her forward. She threw herself into her studies, quickly earning the respect of her teachers and peers. Her warmth and humility made her stand out in a school where competition often overshadowed compassion. Slowly, she made friends who admired her for her resilience and authenticity. Meanwhile, Emma continued to visit her old neighborhood regularly. She didn't want to forget where she came from or the people who had shaped her. She tutored kids after school and even helped organize a community book drive, knowing how much a simple book could inspire a child. One evening, Michael Stanton invited her to dinner. Over the meal, he said, "Emma, I see a spark in you. You remind me of what it means to stay grounded while reaching for the stars. Never lose that." His words stayed with her, solidifying her resolve to use her success for the greater good. Emma realized that the best way to honor the opportunities she'd been given was to give back to her community. She started volunteering at local shelters, teaching kids how to read and write, and even organizing small workshops to share her story. Her efforts soon caught the attention of her school, and with Michael Stanton's guidance, Emma launched a mentorship program. The program connected students from privileged backgrounds with those from underprivileged communities, fostering empathy and collaboration. At first, Emma struggled to manage her time between her studies, volunteer work, and family commitments. But her passion for making a difference kept her going. Every time she saw a child's face light up while reading their first book or solving a difficult problem, she felt fulfilled. Michael remained a quiet supporter, providing resources whenever she needed them. "You're creating ripples, Emma," he told her one day, "ripples that will turn into waves." Emma's old neighbors often stopped her to thank her for bringing hope to the community. Though she humbly brushed off their praise, she couldn't deny that the joy she brought to others was the greatest reward of all. As Emma grew older, her dream of becoming a teacher became more than just a possibility. It became a reality. She graduated with honors, earning a degree in education. Michael Stanton was there at her graduation ceremony, clapping proudly as she accepted her diploma. Emma wasted no time putting her education to use. She began teaching at a school in her old neighborhood, determined to inspire children who, like her, faced countless obstacles. Her lessons went beyond textbooks. She taught her students about kindness, perseverance, and the power of small actions to create big changes. Her classroom became a safe space for children who felt unseen or unheard. Parents often thanked her for the way she motivated their kids to dream bigger. Emma also continued her mentorship program, expanding its reach to other schools in the city. One day, Michael visited her classroom. Watching Emma teach, he felt a deep sense of pride. "You've not only achieved your dreams, but inspired others to chase theirs," he told her. Emma smiled, knowing that her journey was just beginning. Years later, Emma's story continued to inspire people across the country. The Stanton Scholarship Fund had grown into a nationwide program helping thousands of underprivileged students achieve their dreams. Michael often credited its success to Emma, calling her the spark that ignited a movement. Emma, now a seasoned teacher, launched a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting struggling families. She named it the Ripple Foundation, a nod to the idea that one act of kindness can create endless waves of change. On the foundation's opening day, Michael stood by her side. "This is your legacy, Emma," he said, "and it's only the beginning." As Emma looked out at the crowd of students, parents, and supporters, she felt a surge of gratitude. Her journey had started with a single decision to help a stranger in need. Now it had come full circle, proving that even the smallest act of kindness can transform lives in ways no one could imagine. Her story ended where it began, with kindness. But this time, the ripple effects of her actions were boundless, touching lives far beyond her own. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the power of kindness, don't let it stop here. Share this story with someone who could use a little inspiration today. Remember, even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples that change lives. If you believe in spreading positivity and making a difference, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep inspiring others together.